Good afternoon, everyone. You know, when you hear, excuse me, when you hear 40 years, it sounds bad. But then if you said 4 decades, that would even sound worse. So. I'd like to first of all start out and say it's been a great 40 years. But I think when we take a look at where we're at today, for those who are in banking today, we almost feel like we're living in the 1980s, and that's when I got started. And that scares me. And so what I think we have to do is, when we're financing, we have to think, we have to plan. We have more than ever before. Plan even for exiting. So, yes, a native, grew up around oil and farm, and thank God I did. I've loved it all the time, north of Ellis. But in banking, I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing today, not what happened in 1985. So when I call on a bank today in our counties, you walk in a building, it used to be filled with employees and lots of action. You walk in today and it's quiet. You don't have the same expertise of people because they don't need it. They're a branch and they're relying on home base and all this. So they are, not all of them, so Jaden, I'm not going to pick on you, but we are providing a resource that a lot of them don't have in the bank building anymore because it's just not financially feasible for them. So when we look at a project, so we're going to start out, and we're not a non-for-profit, we don't deal in nonprofits. We hope we're not a grant program. We're not in competition with the traditional bank or lenders in our area. We want to be a partner. So when we think of gap lending, it used to be, somebody went into the bank and if they didn't have the money to put down, the deal was done, right? Today, a lender needs to say, I need that business in my area. How can we fill the gap? So Jaden will speak in just a moment, but gap lending is what you don't have that they want. So if your loan policy says you need 30% down, who's going to come up with the 30%? And I've written over $800 million worth of SBA and rural development loans over time. And whenever there is a gap, somebody's filling the financial gap, the payback has to be less over less time. Excuse me. The payback has to be over more time than what the loan is. Because there's not a lender out there that doesn't want to be paid first. The guy providing the gap has to come up with the easy terms. So that's our goal. We want to come up with easy terms that borrower can survive or make it. Let's go back to the other slide. So, kind of a cool one in Quinter, Kansas. All of you heard on the radio many years, Schmitty Tire. And so it was one of those cases, no succession plan. And this gentleman, Hargett, ended up and grew up in the area. And that happened to be Equity Bank and us put that deal together. And so a success story, and that's an equity banker standing beside you there. But that we filled the gap, and so we can move on to the next one. This is really an awesome one. Of course, you've heard about daycares, and this happens to be a daycare that was needed in Oakley. And the Oakley Hospital needed a daycare for their employees' children. And so this was a number of entities came together. We took care of the gap, or the deal wouldn't have came together. And then one of our loan customers that we funded built the unit. And so it is up and rolling. So in lending, everybody wants to hear how it can be done. Sometimes a good lender tells you how it can't be done, that it's not going to be done, or it needs to be different than you're thinking. So my job is not always figuring out how we can make a loan for someone. It's it's how we can help the lender think. When I got into lending in 1985, Travenol had left Hays, Kansas. By February of '86, oil went down to from $42 a barrel to $8. 600 homes for sale in this community, and I got hired by Emprise Bank, and at that time, we had to figure out how to survive. And I could never wish to have not had that experience. What helped me as a person is when I look at a business deal and deep dive into something, I look at how can we make this survive and not throw the towel in. But it doesn't always end up meaning borrowing more money. That always doesn't fix it. Sometimes we have to figure out how can we put some of the loan on standby. Sometimes we need to put some, lenders don't like to hear the word standby, but the difference between charge off and standby, a standby loan beats the heck out of a charge off. So sometimes again, a path forward is just to survive. We're in the lending time right now, the ag industry. I think we need to figure out how to survive. I'm not down on ag, I'm down on the fact we've got to think, how do we make it? I come from 4 generations of farm. The last thing we want to do is think about selling the farm, right? We want to figure out how to pass it on. And so we have to figure out how the plan is. And to me, business is that. Sometimes that path is to stop. One time I was listening to a quote that was so true in a movie, it made me think, wow, stop and just think about where we're at today. Success doesn't come fast. There's a quote out there I love that a tree that, like an oak tree that lives long, is going to grow. What grows slow will live long. And I think business is that. So if we go back to the picture, Jamison Brothers build units that end up as daycares, and those can be converted to homes. But their story is fantastic. 2 young fellas, when I say that, they're under 40, and they have a work ethic that's unbelievable. But their business, let's talk about it, how they survive. They have a fencing business in Quinter, Kansas. They build houses, they remodel houses. So I think when we're thinking about how do we survive, sometimes we have to look at all the options. So we rely on past connections to match clients with appropriate lenders. So I'm not here to knock lenders, I'm here to know, I should know who's out in our 18 counties, 26 counties, of who wants to be a commercial lender. There's nothing more disheartening than if you're trying to put a deal together and you go in and the person they're talking to only wants to talk about cows and don't want to hear about anything about how to save the local grocery store or whatever. So when people address us, we are not turning them away from a bank, we're giving them lists of lenders we know that are actively involved in banking, in business lending. We are not a negotiator per se, but at the same time, I have one bank that actually makes a phone call and says, Monty, how should we put this together? And this is in western Kansas. And so when I take a look at land, building, and equipment, we all know that, in fact, I'm working with somebody right now up in St. Francis. What a mistake to dump everything on a 10-year payout. They're trying to pay off the building, the working capital, the equipment in 10 years. What's that going to do to cash flow? So what I do is we're trying to educate the lender. You take a look at what asset is going to last the longest, which is a building, we hope, unless it blows away. Building, the equipment, and so Jaden's going to talk about SBA a little bit, but the reality is we have to look at the use of loan proceeds. Our job at the Innovation Center is to figure out how do we build working capital, how do we build a success story. And that all comes from how we stack the cards and how we structure a loan. At the same time, we have to keep score correctly. And I've been around the block long enough to know what accountants understand what a business balance. There are accountants out there who don't understand business, period. They know how to do a tax return. And so when we're working here in a moment, I think we're gonna have Josh Callahan here. Josh, you're back there, right? And so Josh is gonna be one of those examples who's worked a lot with me. I've known him for 20 years. That when we're not knocking anybody, but we're trying to help our customer understand you have to have a bank and an accountant that are working together, or you're working against each other. So High Plains Machine, another project that was put together with Bank of Hayes. Our definition of below market rate is most of our loans are running at 4% fixed. And yes, my board and loan committee has really listened to me, and I appreciate that. I think we should never start a payment within the first month. All we're doing is lending money for working capital. So we take and we go 6 months, no payment. And then we kick in with a payment. And we will structure it in a way that makes financial sense. We're willing to invest into a good idea. We have a lot of fun businesses. I love our customer base. We're just across the board, you know. And as I look through our loan report each month, we're building relationships. I'm talking to them a lot. We're building relationships with their accountants. And that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to help them build a success story, and they outgrow us. We balloon all of our loans, typically at 5 years. They're amortized way longer than 5 years. But the idea is that they don't need us. That we have structured this in a way that they've grown equity on their balance sheet, and that makes them more bankable. And so let's say we take Jaden's bank. So if we take any of these projects that we've seen up here that was theirs, and so if let's say it's a SBA loan for a 15-year payout, and now Jaden has had a 4-year track record. He's watching that loan pay down, and guess what? Good loans aren't easy to find. He's gonna come to Monty, or else he's gonna start telling his borrower, you know, I'd like to pay Monty off, or the Innovation Center off. That's our goal. That is our goal. Our goal is to use the funds we have that Hansen has funded us for, that we're good keepers of that money, and we reinvest it in someone else, and that they've gotten that chance to have a benefit. This Northwest Smile Center, we did the gap lending on it. Awesome business. That had been the Duckwall store in Atwood, and was converted, and they have a handful of dentists in there, and mainly focused on the underserved people of a radius, that a number of them are individuals who need dental work from Nebraska and come in. And so Jaden, we'll have you come up. So Bank of Hayes has been a fun one for me, because a number of those people and I, in that bank, I worked together 10 years at Enterprise together, so they knew Monty. But we're gonna ask Jaden just a few questions, and we'll just stand here and look at the questions here. So Jaden, how did you find out about the Innovation Center?
I was thinking about this one, trying to come up with an answer, and I don't really remember. You know, the first time I did anything with the Innovation Center was 2019. And it was on a pharmacy project at one of your guys' communities. And I don't remember what the loan committee discussion was, but it was, hey, we need gap financing, and it ended up with you guys. So that loan has paid off, and fortunately, we haven't had to call you and tell you you're not going to get your money. So
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so describe my experience with the Innovation Center. I mean, I think it's been great. Monty and I see things the same way. And so it kind of, and he understands the bank perspective. So, you know, Bank of Hayes is primarily rooted in small business lending. My focus is primarily the SBA loan programs. We also do USDA lending. Those historically have not ended up very well for us, so I kind of lean SBA. You know, I think the fact that I haven't had to call Monty and say, hey, you're not getting your money is a good thing, and also he hasn't told me no, so that's been good. And fortunately, all the projects we have together are going very well. So several of them you've seen up here on the slides today. So, how is it useful as a commercial lender? You know, you bring up 1985. I was not around for that, so I don't know. But I think when I look at the small business economy right now, especially with what interest rates have done and just banks' general appetite for risk, the need for gap financing is increasing tremendously. You know, I pulled some numbers weeks ago. I don't even remember where I got it, but 55% of small businesses are looking to transition in the next 5 years, and it's almost 90% of small businesses that are going to look to transition in the next 10 years. So I think most of you in here are economic development people in these 26 counties. That's a terrifying statistic, I'm sure. It's terrifying to me as a lender because over half of these businesses have no succession plan. So, you know, they want to sell, they want to hand the business down to their kids or to their family, but if they can't, that business is going to go away. So, you know, I think deeper from the loan side, getting involved with Mason and Michael is a huge thing. We work with them in a lot of projects. We send a lot of people their way as well. We're trying to make people understand the importance of succession planning early. I mean, before you can even imagine that you need a succession plan. For specific loan projects, you know, with Monty's experience in SBA, when I call him with a deal, you know, he understands what I need and why I need it. The SBA is an amazing tool for exactly what I talked about with people looking to sell their business. You know, a buyer can get in with a lower down payment. Most of the time it's 10%. And we all know that things are way more expensive than they've ever been right now. And so somebody coming up with 10% of $1 million project is not as common as it used to be. So I think that's where the Innovation Center, and quite frankly, all of you as e-community partners, the gap financing comes in huge. You know, I think the projects that Monty and I have worked on recently, one was a startup, kind of a business transition, but really a startup for this young kid who was looking to grow a business in a small town north of here. And you know, Monty came out and met with him. You know, so Monty, I'm going to keep saying you, but I guess he's probably your entire loan committee. Monty is more invested in just than just in the financial aspect. You know, he's visiting these customers. He's getting to know them on a deeper level. And I think, you know, as the lenders, being on the same page is a great, important thing. And then you mentioned the accountants. I think when the bankers and the accountants are all on the same page, that's when the businesses flourish. So overall, my experience has been great. I have no qualms at all. I wish I had more projects to send to you, but we're trying to find good loans, as you've mentioned. So.
That's all we want.
And then what would I say to people considering working with the Innovation Center? Do it. I struggled with this one too. You know, it kind of brought me to the 9th Street Diner project. came up on here earlier. If most of you are economic development people, you know, that project was the bank, the Innovation Center, and e-community funds. So, you know, it's a little messy the more you get involved, but in order to make a deal work, you know, that allowed, you know, a business to stay open, the owners to transition out, and for a new business owner to take on responsibility and provide for his family. So, do it. Don't be afraid to get more people involved. I know, you know, when you tell somebody you're gonna have 3 loan payments, it's a little nervy, but you mentioned the refinance thing where you want them to outgrow it. It's pretty hard to tell your borrower, hey, I want to refinance that, but it's at 4%. So, but you know,
And you're at 8.
yeah, we're at 8. It's coming down a little bit, but this week it's went back up. So yeah, it's been a great partnership. Very fortunate and thankful to everybody at the Innovation Center, and thankful to all of you as e-community people as well. It's a vital, necessary piece for a small community commercial bank like us. So that's all I got.
We really appreciate it. Thank you. So the real answer is yes, I turned 64. But I want to tell you, when I drive up and down interstate or Hays, Kansas, or whatever community I'm in, the pride and the appreciation that I've had since really it was 1986, that to know the people that we have continued to, that I love working with, and that's where I continue to be at. And so as we move forward, next I'm going to have the Dill family come up, and we're going to introduce them. So they purchased an entity in Norton known as Miltech, and we are involved in the financing of that. And so Kevin, Becca, and Roddy, if you could all come forward. So they're going to give you a thumbnail sketch of their history, because it's really cool that they all came home and reinvested back in our world. Kevin?
All right, well, we were given 3 questions. I'm going to answer the first one. What is my experience with the Innovation Center? Well, my experience with the Innovation Center starts June 17th of last year. That's about 9 months ago. How I remember that is that it's my bro's birthday here. Just a quick introduction. I'm the new CEO of the Miltech Manufacturing, formerly known as Miltech Machine Corporation. And this is my brother, the Chief Operating Officer, and my incredibly bright sister-in-law, Becca. She's our CFO. But last June, we were toying with the idea of Miltech buying it. When I say toying, that's a light word, almost just toying with it. So we're visiting. What really made it for real? Well, first of all, right there, that man over there, Sam Nicholson, what a treat. You happen to be, he was former owner, he is our master machinist. He has, sorry to sell you out, 5 decades of machining experience in Miltech manufacturing. And the more I get to know it, the more I find out. And you'd think I would do my due diligence, but the amazing things they make there out of titanium Inconel, agricultural parts. Say again?
Well, I mean, just real quick, I'll describe the company. Kevin's more of a serial entrepreneur, and I'm kind of an operator. The Navy put me into an office job in my last tour, and it almost killed me. But during that time, I learned quite a bit at the Pensacola State College about mechanical design and fabrication. And I knew at that point, 11 years ago, that I wanted to have a machine shop in my garage. Fast forward to last year, his son and son-in-law decided that they were going to design little accessories for high-end sports cars. They called me up, Uncle Roddy, can you design me and prototype some guards for these Porsche GT3R? I'm like, sure. Next thing I know, they've got this business started, and we needed some molds and dies and not laminar flow nozzles. And I went to Sam, called him up. Sure, we can make those. That's a one-off part, so it's going to cost you. We don't care. We got this. Anyway, we didn't know a thing about business. And Sam got those done for us. I traveled over to Norton, and I walked into that shop, and I saw the UMC 500 SS. I saw the VF3. I saw the VF4. I saw the hard-hinge lathe, all these really cool machines, especially the manual machining lathe, all the vertical mills that Sam loves working on. And he saw the look in my eye, and he said, Roddy, why don't you buy this place? And I'm like, no way. I'm too busy. Later on that evening, he calls me and says, Roddy, we can do it. And I'm like, you're crazy.
Okay. Anyway, back on task. So, Monty. No, so my first experience with the Innovation Center, Monty Keller. And I wasn't going to say this, but I said to you, Scott, just a little bit ago, when I got to know Monty, and I knew the sincerity of what you do. I mean, in your website, it talks about vision, mission statement, and one of them is, we don't just daydream with you, and I'm going to paraphrase, we walk alongside you, we dream together and build and up. Monty, let me go back to who we are, 1978. That was the Centennial, Atwood Centennial. We moved into Atwood. My dad, he was a brand new doctor. Some of you might even have known him. He passed away 2 Novembers ago. Dr. Dill, Dr. Rodney Dill, and I'll bet you at least one of you knows him. There, see. So we were 7th grade, 8th grade, and formative years, Atwood, Kansas. So never saw a small town, so got to know it. Not only that town, but all the different counties. I have memories of academic bowls in Colby, running track in Norton, wrestling, my first wrestling meet, St. Francis, and Fort State Hayes Community College, or actually Hayes University. Yeah, so I took piano lessons, classical music under the watchful eye of Dr. Cecil Lotif, way back when. But I attribute our successful long-term military careers to Atwood and the neighboring